Marie-Antoinette. Just saying the name brings up all these images, right? Towering wigs, incredible dresses, and a revolution that literally changed the world. She's one of history's most famous and maybe one of its most misunderstood queens. She was a symbol of glamour, of power, and, in the end, of unbelievable tragedy. But the real story behind the legend? Oh, it's way more complicated than you think.
Just look at these two pictures. On the left, you've got a queen at the absolute peak of her glamour and influence in 1783. And on the right, that's the same woman, just 10 years later, sketched on her way to be executed. So how on earth did the dazzling icon on the left become the condemned prisoner on the right in just a single decade? That's the huge question we're going to try and unpack today. All right, so to really get this, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning, because her story, and honestly her fate, was pretty much set in motion long before she ever even saw France. I mean, look at this timeline. Marie-Antoinette was just a kid born into one of the most powerful families in Europe. And at only 14 years old, she becomes this political pawn in a marriage cooked up to stop centuries of fighting between Austria and France. This was no fairy tale romance, it was a high-stakes political chess move, and she was the queen on the board.
And this quote tells you everything about the pressure she was under from day one. In this bizarre ceremony on an island in the middle of a river, she was literally stripped of everything Austrian. Her clothes, her dog, her friends. She was supposed to become 100% French on the spot. Can you just imagine the weight on this teenager being told to basically erase her own identity? From that moment on, she was the Dauphine of France, and you better believe the court never ever let her forget it.
So what's fascinating is how her life at Versailles, which was the most over-the-top court in Europe, pretty quickly turned into this beautiful gilded cage. And every attempt she made to just carve out a little bit of a personal life ended up fueling a total public relations nightmare. The French court was basically a snake pit. From the get-go, they called her l'Autrichienne, the Austrian, which was this nasty little dig to remind everyone she was a foreigner. Her private life was everybody's business. For 7 long years, her marriage wasn't consummated, which sparked all these humiliating rumors. So when she tried to escape the suffocating rules by retreating to her private getaway, the Petit Trianon, people saw her as an elitist snob. And her spending on fashion, well, it wasn't the real cause of France's huge debt, but it made her the perfect scapegoat, earning her that infamous nickname, Madame Deficit. And then came the scandal that basically destroyed what was left of her reputation, the affair of the necklace. It was this incredibly complicated scam where she was completely the victim, but you know what? It didn't matter. The story of a greedy queen secretly buying a diamond necklace worth a fortune while people were starving, it was just too good, too believable for a public that was already ready to hate her. So even though a court proved she was innocent, the damage was done. Her reputation was just shattered.
So, here's the crucial part. With her reputation in absolute tatters, Marie-Antoinette became the perfect symbol for everything that was wrong with the monarchy. So when the revolution finally exploded, she became the lightning rod for all of the people's fury.
And just look at how fast it all unraveled. October 1789, a mob of furious women marches on Versailles, drags the royal family back to Paris, and basically puts them under house arrest. Then their botched attempt to escape France in 1791, that just destroyed any last bit of trust. From there, it was a terrifyingly quick slide from palace to prison to the execution of the king, which left the queen all alone to face the music. This tidal wave of hate was fueled by some seriously powerful propaganda. And nothing captures that better than the most famous line she supposedly ever said. The ultimate proof of a heartless, clueless aristocrat. Yeah, except she never said it. It's a complete myth. And this just goes to show you the incredible power of a good story, true or not. That phrase had been floating around for decades, pinned on other princesses long before her. Not a single person writing during the revolution actually claimed she said it. It was a lie, a perfect piece of propaganda, a weaponized quote that fit the monster they'd already created in their minds. So let's turn to her final days, because this is where a very different picture of the queen starts to emerge. One of incredible dignity and strength, right in the face of absolute horror. During her joke of a trial, the prosecution stooped to the most disgusting accusation imaginable, that she had committed incest with her own son. She was silent for a moment. But then she stood up, and she didn't address the judges. She spoke directly to the women in the crowd, saying, "I appeal to all mothers present here." And in that one instant, she wasn't a queen, she was a mother in pain, and it reportedly stunned the crowd into sympathy.
In the last letter she ever wrote, just hours before she was executed, her final thoughts weren't for herself, but for her kids. She passed on her husband's dying wish to their son that he should never, ever seek revenge. It's this incredible plea for forgiveness and peace, which is a million miles away from the monstrous caricature created by the propagandists.
So who was she really? A shallow queen obsessed with parties? A political traitor? Or just a tragic victim caught in the gears of history? The truth is, her legacy is this incredible, complicated mix of all of it. She's still a global icon, and we're still fascinated by her, because her story is about so many big things: fame, public perception, and what happens when one person's life collides with the brutal forces of history.
And you can see here how our view of her has really changed over time. For so long, the extravagant queen caricature was all anyone saw. But as we've learned more, the idea of her as a political victim, or even just a deeply misunderstood woman, has gotten a lot stronger.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, her life is this powerful lesson about history itself. It shows us how perception can literally become reality, how a real human being can be twisted into a symbol for people to hate, and why it's so important to try and look past the myths to find the complicated and often tragic person underneath.
Which leaves us with the question that never really goes away. Was she the architect of her own downfall? Did her naivete and her choices seal her own fate? Or was she simply a victim, a young woman swept up in a historical hurricane that nobody could have possibly survived? The answer, just like the queen herself, is something we're still debating today.